Okay. So it's a big day today, for me anyway. We're going to finish 7 years of Nagarjuna. And so there's 27 chapters. We're going to wrap up chapter 26, and then we'll go to chapter 27. Okay? And as the mayor of Rimrock knows, we're not quite finished with the wheel of life. And here's we're halfway through this verse. By the way, for $50 each, what a way to start the day. What are those 2 pictures? That's easy. You gotta raise your hand. Why so slow? Too small? Can you zoom in? I'll give you a clue. There's a lady giving.
Giving birth.
Yeah.
And link number 12, aging and death.
Yeah, it says, yeah. The rents are so high in Hong Kong this year. They need money.
That's why I live in Shenzhen.
Oh, sorry. Okay. But kanji is not as good in Shenzhen. Okay. Right? Okay. Anyway, advanced desire is moreover the 5 different heaps. They are born from this desire. Think then of aging and death and their grief and cries of pain and suffering. So he stops in the middle of the suffering. And he's been talking about link number, advanced desire 10. Okay, no, 9. And then 9 is the water and the warmth that wakes up the sanskara at link number 2 and turns it into link number 10. Okay, good. Yeah. So it's kind of, I always would go back to the watermelon seed, and you stick it under the ground and you wait for 3, 4, 5, 6. You wait for 7 links until it gets enough water and heat, which is desire for your body and mind, okay? In the wrong way. What would that desire for your body and mind look like? Desire for the 5 heaps. What would it look like? Simply put, you gotta raise your hand. Come on, and then you always get all the money and you gotta share some. No, I'm kidding, it's okay. You gotta talk. I don't know this thing, you gotta put it down your throat. It's a sign. No, go ahead. Just yell.
Believing in my self-existence.
Say it pennishly.
And attached to my parts that I think are self-existent. Body and mind.
Which come from?
On its own.
I gave you like $90. Yeah, which come from their own side. Yeah. And don't come from my seeds. Let's say, it's always safe to say don't come from my seeds. Yeah, so if you get sick, you think you must have caught it from somebody else or something like that. Okay? And you don't realize it's coming from how you treat other people. Okay? Like maybe you eat meat and then you plant the seeds to see your body sick or something. And then you blame it on something else. Some poor viruses. The I was getting the blame. Okay. All right. Then he says, may not dumba. Say at the last. Say may not. May not. Just say may not. Dumba. That's an ancient word. Nak, as you know, means speech or mantra. May means trouble. May not means sounds of trouble. Like, okay. Dumba means to yell or to groan all the time. Like when Ben Kramer wakes up. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. So Menga Dimba. And it's really all the sadness that we hear in the world. People's parents die, or they find out they got cancer, and things like that, and then they make noises, different kinds of noises. Okay, that's all called Menga Dimba. This morning I decided on a new definition of Menga Dimba, which is to sit with your friends at the dinner table and discuss all your medical treatments. That's how you know when you're my age, because you meet your friends and you're like, wow, what's your doctor saying? I got a good one. Really? We used to talk about girls and boys. So anyway, in fact, Menga Dilma is so famous that it's mentioned in the root sutra of the Wheel of Life, which is very short, a few pages. And for $100, see, Gang I got a lot of offerings yesterday. Gang is going to tell us the name of that sutra, roughly. Because there's an interesting part to it.
The first principle and the dependence.
Right, the first principle and the wheel of life. Okay, the first principle and the wheel of life. What's the first principle, Sugan?
If this happens, that happens.
Nice.
If this starts, that starts.
Yeah, if this happens, that will happen. If this starts, that will start. And that's called the first principle. Okay? It means everything has a cause. And everything's coming from you. Okay? And it's called the first principle. Idim. Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's almost enough to fly back to Surabaya. I'll try to do some more. Okay. And I was very, one of the first debates in Sugeng's text. So Sugeng is translating a very ancient commentary to the 12 books by Master Vasubandhu, which no one has ever touched before. And one of the interesting in there, by the way, that's Vasubandhu coming out of the closet as a mind-only guy. Okay, so he's known for Abhidharma. He wrote the Abhidharma Kosha, but he comes out of the closet in that book, and it's wow, to hear him explain the 12 links with mind-only is amazing. But there's a debate. It's an interesting debate, and they say, some people say that painful sounds that people make towards the end of their life, okay, or when someone dies when they're younger, those particular sounds should be a 13th link. Okay, and there's an interesting argument about it. Somebody says, I think it should be an extra link. I think there should be 13. Okay, some people with good morality won't make those noises. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, by the way, Arya Nagarjuna And he's being cute, I think. So this verse number 8, it ends with and. Okay, and you can see it in the Tibetan. It says done. Okay, done. And what's happening after that? Let's go to the next slide, you dudes. 26.9. Yeah. Cries and unhappiness and turmoil, all these come from birth. Thus it is that all this, which is nothing but a huge mountain of pain, comes to happen to us. There's a wonderful soliloquy by Shakespeare about these stages, and I have a Shakespearean actor on the campus today. I'm trying to get them to read it. If they don't read it, I'll have Ben Kramer do it or something. Okay. All right. Okay. And unhappiness. Now, so he's on verse 9 out of 12, and he's finished with the 12 things. Writes again?
No.
No. Why?
We talk about the stopping.
Yeah, anytime you teach the wheel of life, you have to go and then you gotta go. You gotta teach people how to turn it backwards. 12, 11, 10. By the way, unfortunately, it's not 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, okay? This way, we call it Lung Jung, which means the way it starts is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like a clock. And then it's again, doesn't go counterclockwise. No, it goes stop 1, number 2 will stop 2, number 3 will stop 3, number 4 will stop. So we focus on stopping number 1, which is simply studying the pen. Okay? So don't blame me for teaching. How many times? 3 teaches Raz. 3 года хватит, по-моему. We сделали это. Okay. So anyway, he's got 3 verses left, and he's going to talk about how to shut down the wheel of life. I took the time to take out the verses. I gave you the Sanskrit. I gave you the Sanskrit in diacritics, which means technical pronunciation. And then I gave it to you in American pronunciation, if you want to do it in American pronunciation. Okay, so that's the second thing. Yeah. Then you got it. So I think people say, oh, I want to learn Sanskrit or I want to learn Tibetan. The way you start is you memorize something, okay? And you say it over and over again, okay? And if you want to memorize something, memorize these 12 verses. It's very, very, very famous. The greatest Sanskrit ever written, in my opinion. Okay? Or you can memorize the English if you want. It doesn't matter, okay? But it's good to have it running around in your mind. Okay? It's a very heavy good cover. It's heavy seed planting. Okay? You're flying home and your plane starts going, and you're like, oh, then that's the last thing you remember. Good way to die. Okay? All right. So we're going to go to Lung Do. Say Lung Do. Lung Do means how do you shut it down? How do you shut down the machine? And here we go. It's got it. Where is it? Sansara Mula? Yeah. I think it's kind of silly, but the root, what's the word for root here in the Sanskrit? Mula, which proves that money is the root of all evil. Okay, anyway, the root of the cycle of pain is doing things. Thus it is that the wise do nothing. As So there's a lot of wise people that I've met in my life. As such, those who are not wise take action, but not the wise, for they have seen the way of things. Okay. Arya Nagarjuna tends to make outrageous statements to try to wake people up. Okay. So the root of the cycle of pain is doing things, right? What is that in the Tibetan? Duche. Okay? I could have written sanskarization or something, but that's not what Nagarjuna wanted. He wanted something striking, and he likes to write something, that people will say, "What?" The root of all your pain is doing things, and he's responsible for a lot of bad behavior later in Buddhism. 18 centuries of bad behavior. People say, Nagarjuna said, people like Busaku said, Nagarjuna said the root of the cycle of pain is doing things, therefore I should lay in my room and watch the internet. Okay, I don't like this thing of putting your electronics away at night. Okay. So this doing things, and people do. And then I don't know. There's been terrible misunderstandings of Nagarjuna over history. Okay? And he must have known it would happen. He said, I don't know. It's kind of mean. He doesn't want to say too much. So sometimes I think he says too little. I mean, I like his style. I prefer his style. But still, it has led to a lot of people staring at walls and, stuff like that. People misunderstood for many centuries. Okay. And we're so lucky to be in a true lineage where they don't say, just lay down and don't think about anything. This is emptiness, We're so lucky. You have no idea how lucky you are. You're swimming in a lineage and you don't know you're there. There's for every lineage like this, there's 100 lineages that would say, just relax, don't do anything, don't think about anything. I still, at the age of 70-something, I still have people come up to me and try to convince me I should do nothing. Nagarjuna said, I'm like, interesting. And almost every day, it's kind of weird. I have this karma and people say, here's what Nagarjuna really said. And I'm like, oh, really? You should do nothing. Okay. The wise don't take action because they have seen the way of things. The word for taking action is in the Tibetan is duchepa, which is the word for the sanskara, which is the word for fresh karma. Okay, and it means put things together, to put things together, duche. So he's using that as a verb here. Put things together. They don't start things, they don't get things going, they don't do stuff. Meaning, for example, they might not yell at a person who is irritating to them because, they know it's coming from. I mean, if they yell at somebody, they go in the bathroom and they yell in the mirror. Okay, that's the only person to yell at. Okay, so they don't do chepa, they don't sanskara, they don't create fresh karma, because they know this person is themselves. They know that where the trouble's coming from is themselves. In theory, if human beings were super smart and you taught them the pen one time, they would never get upset again, ever, in their life, in their whole life. And I had this famous incident in a Southeast Asian country that starts with sing and ends with poor. And this guy says, I don't know, he's so cute. He says, by the way, he was from France. And the Singaporeans said, look, he's not from Singapore. and he said, every time you come to Singapore, you teach this stupid painting again and again, it's so irritating. And I pay extra money to come to your talk every year. And why I pay? Why you keep teaching the pen every year? I said, you just proved you didn't understand. But he was a okay. I'm not making fun of Paris. I'll go anytime. John Brady goes and doesn't invite me. John, right? Admit it. Okay. Like last week, I said, tell me honestly, John, were you having an ALL finance meeting or were you eating crepes on the corner? And he's like I have. Okay, next picture, 11. What's the picture? For $0. What's he pointing to? Yeah, good. Okay, good. By the way, all these, as I mentioned, all these illustrations are from a woodblock tin of the Wheel of Life. It's like this big. And some refugee walked out of the Himalayas in 1973. And I was freezing in a little stone hut. And he walked up to my door and he said, do you want to buy this? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And it's priceless. And so I gave it to my stepmom, and she passed away recently. So she left it back to me. She gave it back to me. And I'm thinking of some way to fundraise with it. But I'll let you know, okay? Probably for YSI. They always need money because her husband is in Paris. Okay. Just kidding. Okay, here's number 11. If you can stop misunderstanding, doing things won't happen either. Stop your misunderstanding is to meditate with knowledge on suchness. Okay, and suchness just means emptiness. And that's our thing. Okay, I'm going to teach you how to teach emptiness. You've probably heard it before. I don't care. Right. And by the way, every one of you should teach. Okay, today is the last day of 7 years of Nagarjuna's wisdom. And maybe you didn't come to every class. That's okay. And did I cover every verse? No, because that would take 70 years. But you have sat through some of Nagarjuna. And in this tradition, it's therefore your responsibility to pass it on to somebody else. It's like COVID. Okay. All right. It's your once you hear it, it's your responsibility to pass it on to somebody else. Okay. And that's the deal you make. That's the mazal you make when you come into this class. By sitting in this class, it's an unspoken promise that you will explain to another person or other people as much as you understand, okay? And there's always that small print in the contract. As much as you understand, okay? Like if they say, explain Nagarjuna to somebody else, you're like, and then they say, explain as much as you understand. Oh, that I can do, that I can do, okay? So just remember this verse, okay? How to stop your misunderstanding is to meditate with knowing on suchness. When you get to suchness, here's what you're gonna do. Everybody raise your left hand. Point your finger. Okay. Now, point to something in this room which is not coming from you. And then you, come on, you got to be dramatic, you know. At the end, you have to what? What's the final mudra? Okay. Okay. All right. And that's called tattva, suchness. That's suchness. Dekonani. Right? That's suchness. Okay. And it's pure, and it's absolutely correct. And it's better than 10,000 explanations that have been given in this world. It's absolutely correct. Okay? It's absolutely correct. So who is there to be upset at in your life? By the way, there's a special blessing of Nagarjuna. When you reach the end and they give you the mudra, the special mudra, then on the way home to where you live, you will get really upset at somebody. It's a blessing. There's some kind of blessing. Okay? Probably in the gas station or the airport or on the plane, you'll be next to this irritating lady, you go like, and then she'll go, and you mean, that's Diamond Way, okay? Understand? We hired her. There's a thing at Diamond Mountain, there's an old thing, I don't know if you remember, it's called central casting. Central casting is the office where the movie people hire actors. And so there's a karma central casting. And in fact, right now, she's getting on the plane somewhere. And she's gonna connect to your plane. And we worked so hard to get her in the seat next to you. Then she's gonna like bother you. And then your Nagarjuna is gonna fly out the window. Goodbye, Nagarjuna. Okay. And Diamond Way, if you want to know what's Diamond Way, everybody's asking me, please teach Diamond Way. I'm teaching Diamond Way. She is not a normal person. She was sent from central casting. Okay, got it? What do you think? These books survive for 2,000 years. Do you think a book can survive with 2,000 years if it doesn't work for anybody? Do you think people will keep passing it on and printing it and carving it and translating it if it doesn't work for anybody? And if it did work for anybody, where are all these people? They're on the seat next to you. Okay, I'm not kidding. That's Diamond Way. You want Diamond Way? I just gave you the whole initiation, boom, empowerment. Okay, all right. Okay. It's only the thick-headed ones that you have to teach for 7 years. Diamond Way. Some people you can do it in 7 minutes. Okay. All right, next, I think we're on the last verse, 12. Yeah, there you go. When you put a stop to any particular one, then that other particular one will never happen. This is how we put a perfect end to what is a pure mountain of pain. And Nagarjuna likes those cute expressions, You can put a perfect end to the pure mountain of pain, okay? And it means each successive link. Stop link number 1, link number 2 stops. Stop link number 2, link number 3 stops. Stop link number 3. Then you get up to 12 and no death, no birth. That's why some lower schools thought you disappeared. That's why they thought nirvana was disappearing, because you stop birth and death, okay? But it means suffering, birth, and death. It doesn't mean you have to disappear, okay? Then you stop 13. What's that? No more crying, no more whining. I met this lady on the plane, she's so goddamn. Then if you stop 12, you stop 13. Okay. You stop at 13 now, it's never there. Okay? Okay. Now, you should give yourselves a hand because you finished Arya Nagarjuna. 12 minutes. You finished the 12 months. Okay. You finished chapter 26, and you're ready to go to the final chapter. Okay. Fine. Chapter 27. Now, some about chapter 27, which is cool. So I was reading chapter 27, and I was working hard on it. And then I had a satori, which is similar to sakura. Because sakura never happens, right? I'm asking Edmund. You're supposed to, if you don't make sakura happen this year, I'm firing you. Okay. We paid all this money to take my stepson to, my godson to Kyoto to see the cherry blossoms open. And they were late. And they opened on the last day on the way to the airport. And the Chinese friends said, Geshe, we're going to do a play. We're going to do a play on the last day. And I said, okay. And then they did this play, and they dance across the stage, and they go, dee, 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 dee. They're supposed to go like this, you see, like the cherry blossom opening. And then they're like, it was really cute. That's why they're coming in. Yeah, I gotta take the other stepson found out. Now he wants to go. So I'm bringing him, okay? All right. Okay, so I was working on the last chapter. And strangely, and we mentioned it at the beginning of this week, we said the last chapter is called an examination pariksha of viewpoints. Okay, like what a way to end a book. He should say, you should be nirvana as the last chapter. Why the last chapter we're supposed to examine viewpoints? It sounds like something you should do in the third chapter or something like that. It's kind of irritating. And it's longish. It's kind of long, okay? And oftentimes scriptural scholars will say if the last chapter's too long and kind of dry, like Yoga Sutra, they'll say, somebody added this on 600 years later, Then some stupid had added a chapter. So it's tempting to think like that, because that real life chapter ends so, it ends very sweetly, and it should be the end of the book. And then he's like, let's talk about viewpoints. And you're like, what? Why you want to talk about viewpoints? Like you finished your book. And then I was reading it, and there's a famous, how many viewpoints? 64 in the ancient sutras, very, very ancient sutras. I have a friend who for 7 or 8 years translated a book called Siddhanta, which means the different viewpoints of different schools in the last 2,500 years. And he worked and worked and worked, and we found more schools. We found different references, and it added up. At the end, when we were ready to publish the book, we added up all the viewpoints. It was 101, which is such a sexy number in the Western countries. It's like ba 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 in China. It's just a good number, 101. It's like Dalmatians and stuff like that. So it was very, very cool. And that's Ben's book. You should give him a hand. And people publishing it are, after 101 years, they're gonna put it out. Is it out? It's kind of out. Okay, we're working on it. It's done, it's almost out. Is it out? It's out? Oh, sorry, the ebook's out for a year. Okay, so 101 viewpoints. And what happened was every year, I'm responsible to write a new DCI level. And I promised 12 levels. And then we finished. And everybody's like, and I'm like, and they're, okay, let's do 12 advanced levels. So we started another 12 levels. And then every year I'm like, oh my God, there's another, that's what happened to my hair. There's another level, I don't know, you know. And so nowadays what I do is I see which book finished the translation. And then I create a level from that book. And we created advanced level 3 last year of DCI directly from Ben's book. And it's an amazing level. It's miraculous, and it's completely different from everything. And I was really, really happy with it. And I won't go into it much, but it's examination of your belief systems, okay? Which Nagarjuna calls viewpoints. You see what I mean? So for me, and by the way, DCI is non-religious. So when we take ideas out of a Buddhist book, we have to also un-Buddhify them. And, you know, so, you know, viewpoint became belief system. And, you know, we have to do this game. So, you know, I call it, the whole thing was called belief systems, or examining your belief system. And I think the sexy thing about that level, advanced level 3, is that we did not draw a conclusion. We did not give you the answer to the puzzle. We said, here's the puzzle, good luck. You know, and I think that's really cool. And there's no ending to that manual. The manual teaches you to examine how you view the world. And it doesn't tell you what to do with that, okay? By the way, if you can't figure out what to do with that, you know, you're stupid anyway, okay? All right? It's just like, wow, you know, put your hand up, point your finger, point to something that's not coming from you. Now you met an asshole on the plane. What are you gonna do? You decide, you know, because that person was created in the past when you didn't understand this thing. So we're not gonna tell you what to do, but maybe you can figure it out, you know. Maybe go to the toilet on the plane and look in the mirror and say, okay, when the lady's, you know, bumping you, okay? So what we did, I think it's a very, very beautiful level. If you haven't studied it, you can ask Jasmine or other organizers here. Tina Liu is here. Who else is here? Yeah, they can teach it to you. They taught it for a whole year, and it's amazing. And then what I realized, Ben, was that I believe Nagarjuna is the source of your Siddhanta. I believe Nagarjuna's last chapter is the source of that examination of different schools. By the way, we talked already about how Shenzang walked through India for 17 years and found Arya Nagarjuna's library in South India, which was by that time 400 years old. You know, Nagarjuna was long gone maybe. And so, you know, he's the original John Brady, collecting all the books. And he was a book collector. That's why he had to Arjuna the Nagas, right? So not only was he a book collector, I believe he was a pioneer of this idea of trying to get people to self-medicate, medicate yourself, give yourself your own medicine by examining your own viewpoints. I'm not going to tell you the punchline. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'll give you all the questions. And then you figure it out, okay? So the last chapter, in my opinion, is Ben's book in the way that Arya Nagarjuna's library was ALL. See what I mean? And who knows who's John Brady? Okay? When you have Naga snake, cobras, rubbing your head all the time, it's a sign. Don't tell Jamie. Okay. Okay. So anyway, when I looked at the last chapter, I thought this is exactly what we did in AL3. And AL3, we condensed all of the Siddhanta, and we condensed all of Nagarjuna's last chapter into 9 questions. Okay, into 9 questions. So the advanced level 3 of DCI basically is how to ask yourself 9 different questions, okay? And we don't give you the answer. We just give you the questions. And then that's supposed to self-answer, by examining your own answers to 9 questions, you're supposed to learn more about yourself and how you think about things. And then normally in that process, you will, you will find out something, you will identify some problems with the way you see things. So we're not trying to, we don't go bang on a person's door and say, I want to talk to you about this paper I have, and can I come in your kitchen? And by that time, they're already halfway in your kitchen, and they say, you should believe this, And we used to have 2 guys who came to the Mongolian temple like once a month, and to convince my teacher to be a Christian, which is, with an old Geshe Haramba, is not a very good idea. And he's like, yeah, what about, and then, by the way, my wife's a Christian, and it's very, very beautiful, and there's many, many levels, and it's very, very fantastic. And I think there's a place where they meet. But anyway, instead of telling people what they should believe, you just ask them, what do you believe? And then when they give the answers, by giving the answers, they learn something, okay? They learn something. I'll give you an example, okay? So I went straight from Princeton. I got honors. I was awarded honors. I proved it to Xiaoping's group, cum laude. When we went to Princeton, I showed them the thing. And then I packed up. I didn't go to graduation. I couldn't, I had to work. And the next day I packed up, I went to stay with my teacher. And I didn't know it's gonna be 25 years there. But I was pretty sure I was a smart guy, because Princeton University certified it, And I'm like, I'm gonna come and learn Buddhism with you. You're so lucky. And so I start, and he taught me every day. I was basically the only student who lived with him. He kicked out everybody else. He was tough. And anyway, so he taught me every day, sometimes 4 or 5 hours. In many, 12 years, Abhidhamma. And he taught me, and then it was frustrating because the only thing he didn't know was English. And by the way, you had a translator. Yeah, English. They had a translator who translated his English into English. And so anyway, he taught me, and it was very, very frustrating because he never asked me anything. And he never needed me to explain anything. So here I am, I spent all these years getting smart. And he's not interested in my opinion at all. And he's always telling me, that's so stupid. I can't believe you think like that, And then finally, one day he says, what about this Senrikpa stuff, which is the new translation in Tibetan for scientists. He said, what about this science stuff? And I said, well, and I'm waiting for him, He's a debater. He's the best debater. He got #1 out of 5,000 monks. I'm like, yeah, science. What about this science thing? It's a thing. And he's like, gee, I wish someone could explain it to me. And I'm like, what? And he said, we don't have that in the Himalayas. We don't know about science. But you got these airplanes made out of metal flying around the sky. We never did that. No Geshe ever did that. That's pretty cool. And he said, can you explain science to me? And I'm like, finally, he's asking me something. This after a year or something, And I'm so happy that he's asking me to explain something to him. So I'm like, okay, science, it's a whole way of thinking, And he's like, what's the way of thinking? I said, everything can be figured out. The whole universe. We can figure out the whole universe from, what do you call it? Big thing, mega things. Yeah. Galactic level stuff down to tiny little stuff. And then we compare them, quantum physics and gravitational theory. Two realities facing each other. Quantum physics on the tiny level and gravitational theory on the massive level. And then they mirror each other. And I start telling him all this science stuff. He's like, and then he says, well, what's the one main principle of science? What would you say is the main principle of science? I said, the main principle of science is that everything has a cause, and you just have to investigate and be patient. And it's called the scientific method, 14 steps of how to do an experiment. And we don't sit there in a room and say, oh, maybe this is how the world happened. We take 14 clear steps, and it's, what do you call it? Peer reviewed. Your peer scientists check everything you say. All the papers you write are checked by other people. And then they all come to an agreement about what caused something to happen, And it's scientific method, 14 steps. That's how we make metal fly in the sky. He's like, amazing, If I was older, I'd know he was setting me up. Because those big geshes are like, oh, really? And so I'm like, yeah. And he says, so everything has a cause. Every cause can be explored. Every cause can be found out. That's science. I said, Dad, you got it. You really got it. He said, wow. Then he goes, how did it all start? What was the first one? And I said, oh, that's called the Big Bang. We got this Hubble telescope up there. It looks back. It sees light arriving from the beginning of the universe, and then we coordinate it back. What do you call it? We figure out from the angles of the dust moving where it must have started where the explosion was, you know. We go backwards from the angles. And we can even pinpoint in the galaxy where it all started, you know. It's a big bang. All this stuff just flew out. And you and me are just parts of the Big Bang, you know. And he's like, wow, that's amazing, you know. A whole theory that you can always find the cause of something. Everything has a cause, and you just work it out with the scientific method, 14 steps, and then you come to the conclusion of how things started. And he said, that's amazing, you know. I said, yeah. And he said, well, what caused the Big Bang? I'm like, I'm getting uncomfortable. That's when you first realize they're setting you up. You're like, he set me up. And I said, well, the Big Bang, you know, that was before everything. You know, the Big Bang didn't have any cause. And then he goes like this. This is when Geshe got you, right? It's like, oh, this definition of science is that everything has a cause except everything. And then I'm like, you didn't really want me to teach you stuff. Okay, got it? So what we're going to do in the 27th and final chapter of Arya Nagarjuna, we're not going to tell you what to think. He says, examination pariksha, viewpoint pariksha. We will just examine what your viewpoints are by asking you questions about your viewpoints. Then you draw your own conclusions. Okay? Oh, everything's a Big Bang. Yeah. Everything has a cause. Yeah. Except everything. Okay, so the point is, we're going to emulate Arya Nagarjuna's method of asking questions. And we're going to ask you 9 questions, okay? In the examination of viewpoints, we're going to ask you 9 questions about your viewpoint. And then we're going to say, go to the airport, meet your lady, see you later. Okay, got it? No answers. No answers. You come to your answers that you arrive at yourself are the answers that you remember. Okay, not the answers that someone else tells you. Okay. That's all. We got 3 minutes, right? Am I right, Tim? Huh? 20 minutes? We can do, I say we do Q&A, okay? And then I'd rather do the viewpoints. No, I better start, okay? Otherwise I may not finish, right? He has to thank 3,000 people. Okay, we're gonna do the viewpoints. If I finish the viewpoints early, I'll do the questions, all right? So Francisco, we should give Francisco, Gina, and Mike, and all those guys a hand. Marina. It's really, really, really important to have a good tech crew, as you know, since so much of it's online and stuff. If the tech crew is not first class, then there's always stuff breaking down and people don't get the broadcast, and I have to stop, and then I lose my train of thought. And so it's really nice to have a really excellent tech team, because then I can just flow. Okay. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate it. There's an idiom. By the way, idiom means idea image. There's an idiom from the earlier classes that I didn't get to, and it applies here. Ta-da! 39. Yeah, for once the AI did a good job. You get the feeling, right? Like you could fall off. And in an earlier section that we covered, he discusses the idea of ta. Say ta. Ta. Okay. Now say ta. 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 Okay. One you kind of breathe, right? Ta. And then one you don't breathe. Ta. Okay, and they're connected, okay, very subtly. So ta means the edge of a cliff. Ta means the edge or the line that separates things. Okay, my holy lama's name was Lobsang Tarchin. Okay, and tar means go to the edge. Tarchin. So he was Tarchin. Okay, he went to the edge. The good edge, okay, and then there's a bad ta, okay, and that's where you see things the wrong way. You see things in an extreme way. For example, you might think that the irritating person on the plane is coming from them. Then we say ta, you fell off the cliff, okay. But my teacher's name, Chin means gone, like Ita in Paramita. And Tarchin means reach the goal, okay, reach the limit. So anyway, there's two kinds of ta, you see. One's a good ta. If you get there, you're done. Probably just eat peach tree cinnamon rolls for your whole life after that. And then the other ta is a bad thing, it's a mistake. It's a way of seeing the world, which is extreme. You go to an extreme. Oh, this irritating lady, probably she didn't have a good mom who taught her how to sit in a chair in the airplane, okay? And that's another kind of ta, where you go too far and you say she's coming from her own side, okay? And then in Tibetan language, by the way, I'm kind of a linguist. I'm not a great linguist, but I studied many languages, and Tibetan doesn't fit into anything. There's no connection to any other language. And there's a tradition in Tibet that their language fell out of the sky. And I don't know, linguistically, it seems to make sense. It's not connected to anything. It's completely unique in the world. And this word, but if you breathe into a sound or you don't breathe into a sound, that sound has a connection, okay? Like ta and ta, say ta and ta. So ta means an edge. Like this is the ta of the table. And my teacher's name went past the ta. And this is called ta also. This kind of, there's many tas which are going too far and falling off the edge of the cliff. And I believe linguistically, it's related to ta, which means how do you view the world? Okay, tawa, say tawa. How do you view the world? Okay, and I believe linguistically, it means how do you draw your lines? How do you draw your lines? This is real, this is not real. This is true, this is not true. And in Tibetan, that's all tawa, where you draw the ta. Okay, so tawa means where do you draw the ta? And I think they're connected. Okay, linguistically, I think they're connected. Viewpoints, studying people's viewpoints is to study where do you draw the lines? Where do you draw the lines? How do you define something? See what I mean? Okay, so remember this. Ta can be a good thing in Tibetan and it can be a very bad thing in Tibetan. So we're going to explore tas without going off the ta. And we're going to tar chin without ta pop. Okay. We're not going to fall off the cliff. We're going to explore where's the edge of our world. Where's the edge of your world? Okay. And then I don't tell you where to go. I just say, where's the edges of your world? And then you will know yourself without me saying anything. You will know where to go. Okay. And that's the very famous Nagarjuna approach as a teacher. He lets you explore. He teaches you to explore. and then he lets you find out your own discoveries. I think it's a beautiful way to teach. He doesn't tell you everything. In fact, he doesn't tell you anything. He just asks you questions about what do you think, and then you answer your own questions. And I think it's a beautiful way to teach. It takes a little preparation. You have to think about the right questions to ask. Like your kid asks you for some chocolate, and you say, "Oh, chocolate, is it yummy? Yes. Is it like great to hide in your school bag and eat during class? Yeah. Yeah, is it fun to go to the dentist?" And he's like, "No, do you like the drill thing? I mean, and he's like, "No, Dad, I don't like that." Okay, but you sure you want the chocolate? And then you don't tell the kid, "Oh, it's gonna give you cavities, don't eat chocolate." You let him go to the dentist in his mind and go to the drill in his mind, and then he says, "Dad, you know what? And you can have the chocolate." And that's what Dad wanted all along. Anyway, okay. Okay. Now Q&A. We have 10 minutes, and then we're ready to do the 9 questions. How many answers? That's up to you. That's up to you. And I think it's a beautiful way to end 7 years of Nagarjuna. Okay. All right. And by the way, any questions, okay. If you want to ask a question about your neighbor's dog, I don't mind. I have one. I haven't figured it out.
Check. Oh, okay. I was just wondering, since yoga was developed to help with our meditation, in the 5 houses, will yoga be in the house of meditation, or which house will that be kind of taught in for us to help the students of that house?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have this new idea of 5 houses of ACI. And it's kind of, ACI is it's so massive. It includes so many things that it has become ridiculous to become an ACI master. The 7 years of the foundation courses, 7 years of the Diamond Way courses, 14 years of the Lam courses, 28 years of study just to say I took the courses. Okay, much less be a master. So what we decided is to split into specialties, like PhD specialties. So I don't try to, and it was inspired by my trip to Princeton, back to Princeton, and watching all the beautiful departments. And people said, "What's your department, Geshe?" And I took them to 1879 Hall, and I told stories. We stood under the tree where the Indian boys sat and talked me into going to India. And it was very beautiful. So anyway, it'd be too much at Princeton to take a PhD in everything. It's crazy, it's insane. It's too much stuff. And ACI has become too much stuff. And I don't know if you feel it, but I feel it. I feel it, because I feel people going, 12, 13, their fingers look like AI fingers, So we decided to specialize. We decided to have departments, and it's called the 5 houses. And they are, first house is Classics House. That's traditional ACI foundation courses. Then, what's the second one? Samadhi House. Yeah, and that's under taught in ACI, okay, frankly. And we are developing 101 or 100? 101. I'm filming 101 meditations that I was taught in my life. I think we're up to 9 or 10, something like that. And I try to do it once a week. So that's Samadhi House. And then there'll be a secular side, which teaches meditation at Google, okay, in a non-Buddhist way. Then third house? Oh, mountain house, yeah. Which is basically go to Diamond Mountain and sit in a cabin and do retreats, learn how to do retreats. And after five house world, fundraiser, where grandpa put in $25,000. And I don't know, I haven't seen the numbers today, but I'm sure you guys have matched me. Minimum. Nobody's jumping up and down. Huh? You did. You did? Oh. Well, anyway, I hope you can match me. I put in 25 with the help of the Russians, okay? And you're gonna, if you wanna match me, match me. But that's to teach normal people, retreat. Then fourth house, staircase house, Lamrim house. Then fifth house, Diamond Way house. The question is, where do you put yoga? We had an organization called YSI 20 years ago. It died. The director quit. The staff quit. I was too busy, and so it died. Then, I don't know, like 5 years ago, Connie came to me and said, "Can I serve you, Lama? Do you need anything?" I said, "Resurrect that dead body called YSI. Like, go to the graveyard, open up the box, pull YSI out. There's many courses. There's 12 courses, I think, 12 sections. There's hundreds of pages of translation and homeworks." And she said, "Yes, sir, I will resurrect YSI." And she did it. And so I kind of leave that to YSI. There's some things that are being done so well that I don't think ACI has to do them. So I don't think ACI, we will always have yoga. DCI has yoga. But I would like to, when I have a DCI yoga program or we have an ACI yoga program, I would like to call YSI, they are experts, like this lady. I suspect she's a YSI person. I don't know for sure. But that's all. They're so good at it. They specialized in it that I feel like we should leave it to them. It's a huge topic. It takes... It would take 4 or 5 years to get through it, and I think it's too much to add to another house. Okay. I think every house should do yoga, okay, to stay healthy.
尊敬的阁下老师你好，
早上好。
早上好。我在京都那个 CSP 的课程的时候
，when I was in Kyoto at CSP course, when I first heard you talking about Vajra Yogini on the stage, I had a very strong feeling. And in China, I am doing a training for females. And after I feel that I have this mission.
Okay. Venerable Geshe, thank you so much. When I first heard you taught me in Kyoto last December, first time I heard about the Vajrayogini word, and because I was doing a business focus on training the ladies entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Okay.
然后我现在也在为这件事情做点准备。我想问阁下老师的问题是：如果我想在商业世界里实现金刚瑜伽母的世界，我想听听您最重要的建议，怎么能做成这件事？
Okay, so after hearing that, I was preparing for that. So, Geshe, I want to ask you if I want to reach a Vajrayogini's world in business. I want to build this Vajrayogini's world in reality. So, venerable teacher, what's your most important suggestion for me? Yeah, thank you.
Great question.
非常非常棒的问题。
It's a great question. And I will say Nagarjuna's emptiness. My answer is Nagarjuna's emptiness. 龙是的空性，龙是的老是龙是的空性，老是龙是的空性，非常棒。 Anyway, when you're on the airplane and the lady next to you is irritating you, or if, by the way, if you're a lady, it's a fat man. Okay, I'm talking to a guy. Okay, and when they irritate you, if you think about they are empty, you know, and you can even do this when they really irritate you. You can go. You know, you can do this mudra on the plane. You know, you can do it on the plane. And then the next natural step, as we did it already, is to believe they came from central casting. Okay? They are just the actor who came from the main office where they assign actors. Okay? So that's Diamond Way. That's Tantra. That's Tantra. Okay? Emptiness leads to Tantra. And you can do it on the plane. You don't have to do a fire offering. You get in trouble on the plane. Okay? You don't have to do all that stuff. Okay? So here's how it goes. Irritation. Then blame. You know. And then catch yourself, self-awareness. And then emptiness. And then how many things not coming from me? Therefore, this lady must be special. And she came from central casting. Because Arya Nagarjuna would not stay in this world for 2,000 years. Grandparents teach it to their grandchildren for 2,000 years. 100 generations. It wouldn't happen if it didn't work for somebody. People don't pass on things that don't work. People pass on things that work. So if it survived up to now, 2,000 years, to this day, to this room, ending today, if it survived up to now, it must have worked for somebody. And then those people must be Buddha. Got it? And that's Diamond Way. To think like that is Diamond Way. So just work on Nagarjuna. And by the way, he's the first great Diamond Way teacher after Lord Buddha. If you check the books written by Nagarjuna, I can teach you more tantric books by Nagarjuna than non-tantric books by Nagarjuna. And his ceremony for the Bodhisattva vows is found in the Tantras. Okay? All right. Yay!
Yes, sir. I have questions.